tragic. Demons appear like magic. Money long so elastic. Foreign fabrics to fashion.
I'm itching for money, cash addict. See a John in my pockets Titanic. When I get on the beat, it's Jurassic. Little niggas don't want static.
Wavy come like tsunami and drown you with the drip.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I really wasn't expecting to make this video right now because I'm working on a video about Sekou. I'm working on a video about Jack Jackson, which I really want to have before the season starts. But there's been a lot of hoopla going on Pistons Twitter since Musa was released today. And if you don't know who the hell Musa is, I don't blame you. But basically, he was the person the Pistons traded Bruce Brown for, along with a late second-round draft pick earlier in this offseason. This has now caused Pistons Twitter and everyone to go crazy because apparently now the Pistons have traded Bruce Brown for nothing. All the moves this offseason have been trash. I know there was like a poll or a survey done that all the GMs thought that the Pistons offseason was the worst in the league because they don't know what the hell they're doing. A lot of people in Pistons Twitter thinks the Pistons offseason was really dumb and stupid. They don't really get what they're doing. And now I've had a lot of people ask me, Ku, why do you agree with their offseason? What is it there that you actually like? Why do you keep defending some of the things they're doing? So I decided to go ahead and just make this video now about what I think about the Pistons offseason just to get it out the way and I can stop being asked about it. So this is going to be a lot of just me talking to the camera. So don't expect like crazy edits or anything or like big stats thrown in here. This is going to be just me talking at the camera telling you guys why I feel fine with the Pistons offseason. So I guess we can just start with the draft. So in the draft at number 7, they got who almost everybody wanted them to get with Killian Hayes. So I think everybody's universally okay with that pick. But another thing that I really liked in this draft is that they replenished their young core by going and also getting 3 extra picks to get Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, and Saben Lee. And with that, they had to give up Bruce Brown, Luke Kennard, and Christian Wood to do all these things, which I'm perfectly fine with, and this is why. Listen, man, no matter how much people want to scream that the Pistons had a good young asset in Bruce and how great Luke is and all this BS, the Pistons really had probably the worst young core in the entire NBA before this. They had no type of young talent on their team outside of Sekou. Everybody else and their timelines were really off track. You had Sekou, who was 18. You had Luke, who's 23, 24. You had Bruce, who's 23. You have Christian Wood, who's now 25. So their timelines were all over the place, along with having an awful young core. So I'm completely in favor of them getting rid of the older type of guys. Even they're not old, but they're older than this main piece that everybody in Pistons Twitter has crowned as the young piece in Sekou. Now you have a young core built around the same age, all 18, 19, 20 years old, all around the same age. Basically what Troy Weaver did instantly with the draft is make a foundation with this team, because this team had no foundation beforehand. I don't care what anybody says. When you have people all around different ages at different points in their careers, you're trying to rebuild. You got Blake, you got rebuild, you want to try to compete at the same time. You got some players who need to develop, but how you're going to develop on a good team that's trying to win sometimes. Like, it was all over the place. This team had no kind of foundation, no kind of culture. So basically what Troy Weaver did off the bat was get rid of everything and try to build a foundation with this team, a culture. And speaking of culture, that leads me to my second point. The Pistons went out and signed Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee in free agency, which really shocked a lot of people because no one really thought the Pistons would be buyers, and they especially didn't think they would go out there and pay a center $8 million a year. A lot of people just wanted the Pistons not really to get any kind of good players, just try like, tank the season, just lose and get draft picks. Just trade people, get bad contracts, get bad players, and just tank the season, suck. However, the problem here, which Troy Weaver obviously seen himself as well, is that this team basically had no culture, and they haven't really had a culture since they traded Chauncey. This team has just been all over the place. It's really been awful. Like, I saw a tweet the other day that called the Pistons in like a tier of like terrible franchises. If you told someone 10 years ago that the Pistons were a terrible franchise, they probably would have laughed at you with the kind of success they've had in their history. But over the last 12 years, they've been absolutely a laughingstock. They've had nothing to build on. Nothing, no type of foundation, no type of culture. So instead of surrounding these said young players that he has brought in with Killian, Saddiq, Isaiah Stewart, Saben Lee, along with Sekou, instead of surrounding these guys with terrible players or bad players and just trading for bad contracts with bad players just to get some picks, he's trying to build a foundation. He is trying to build a culture here. So he brings in Jeremy Grant. He brings in Mason Plumlee. They're likely going to keep Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin at least to the trade deadline. They'll probably want to trade Derrick and Blake at the deadline. But the point of this is, for the first half of this season and for the duration of those two's contract, Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee, they are going to try to set an example. They're going to try to set a nice foundation and culture of tough, hard basketball in Detroit and try to develop them and show them the ways. Now, of course, I'm not saying they sent all this money out on these two guys just for culture, nothing on the court. The thing I think people are really missing with Jeremy Grant specifically is that he was brought in here because he wanted an extended role, see if he can take this next step in his career. The Pistons signed him to a 3-year contract. This is not an awful contract. He's still a really good player. If he doesn't take this next step that he's talking about on offense, which I'm not going to lie, it doesn't look like he's very good with the ball in his hands right now. Maybe he gets better, but the Pistons are not trying to be championship contenders. So throughout these 3 years, they're going to let him try to develop that, just like they're going to try to let Killian, Sekou, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, Saban Lee, anybody else, Svi, anybody else they bring in, they're going to let them try to develop their games over these next 3 years while also surrounding them with great culture, a foundation, and try to their hardest on the court. Not to be bad, but surround them with decent players who go out there and try to win games. So with Jeremy Grant, if he develops something more in offense, it'll probably be later in his 20s, probably maybe a year into this contract, maybe 2 years into this contract. By then, he'll be off the timeline still with the younger players. You know what that means? That means the Pistons can now flip Jeremy Grant, who now has more on offense to offer, for an asset down the road. But even if he doesn't develop this extended offensive role that he wants to have, I'm still going to believe the Pistons probably are going to be able to flip him anyways later in his contract, because even without more on offense, he's still a tremendous player right now that a lot of contenders would want on their teams. So either way, I don't see how that's looked at as a bad contract. Oh, and also in free agency, Torrey Weaver took swings on Josh Jackson and Jahlil Okafor. Two type of players that you want teams like the Pistons to take chances on. You take chances on guys with potential who just haven't worked out yet and just see if they work out for you. And it looks like so far in preseason, Josh Jackson looks like he's a hit. Obviously, it's just preseason. Let's see if he goes in the regular season, but he looks like he's been a hit. Either way, the point is that these are the type of signings you want a team like Detroit to take. This makes complete sense. And I know some of the complaints out there are that the Pistons waive and stretch this person. They waived Zahir Smith. They waive and stretch Dedmon. They waived whatever, all this BS. They don't like that they waive and stretch just to create room to sign Mason Plumlee. You could just sign somebody else. Man, listen, I'm telling you right now, I really could give two... I don't care even a little bit about any of that, because I promise you, if Killian Hayes, Sekou Doumbouya, Sadiq Bey, or literally any of these young guys turn out to be really good players, I promise you not a single damn person is going to be looking back in a few years saying, oh yeah, these guys are really good players, but you remember when they waved and stretched Dwayne Dedmon? What the hell was he thinking? Like, bro, no one's going to give a damn about that. If they had went out and like signed like a Josh Smith contract or something, or like a big cap casualty, or someone you think, oh god, we have to wave and stretch them down the line because we don't want their contract on him for 5 years now, or it was like handicapping us moving forward with the cap space, I'd get it. I'd get that. But dude, they signed Mason Plumlee for 3 years, $8 million a year. This is not like it's not destroying your cap. They signed Jeremy Grant for 3 years, $20 million a year. And if he develops something, he'll be flipped. And even if not, I still believe he's probably going to be flipped in like his last year of the contract. Like, these are not cap casualty contracts. You're not going to be waving and stretching them. I promise you, no one's going to give a damn in 2 years about them waving and stretching Dwayne Dedmon. Literally, the only thing that matters for the Pistons right now is sending a good environment, a good culture, a good team foundation for Killian, for Sekou, for Sadiq Bey, for any other rookies they get moving forward, or even Josh Jackson, just young players in general. Set a good environment that people want to come to Detroit, a good environment for young players to develop. They want to be here. They get the best out of them. So whatever Torrey Weaver thinks is the best way to do that, as long as it happens, this is what matters. This is what we're going to be judging him on. Not whether he waved and stretched Dwayne Dedmon, or whether he traded Bruce Brown, who's not even playing for the Nets, whether he traded Bruce Brown for Musa. The only thing that damn matters is that he gets one of these players, or one of these players next year, to boom. One of them have to become really good players. And if one of them, let alone multiple of them, become really good players, nobody else will give a damn about whether he waved and stretched Dwayne Dedmon, whether he traded Bruce Brown or Luke Kennard. No one's going to care, because the goal is to get one of these guys to boom. And if they do, no one will care how he did it, because he got them to boom. That's the goal. And lastly, on Bruce Brown, I've done recorded this probably like 5 times trying to make it shorter, but basically what I'm going to say about Bruce is that I love Bruce. You guys know how high I was on him. But can we please stop overvaluing our own players? Bruce was a second-round pick. He was an average player last year, if that. He showed great progression, had me as a believer, but let's not make him something he wasn't. He's not setting this franchise back 2 years. Having him on the team was not going to save this franchise. So in 2 years from now, if one of these guys become really good players, we are not going to be thinking about Bruce Brown. I hope Bruce Brown proves everybody wrong over there. I love Bruce, but please, he's not some savior, and he's not going to set this team back 2 years, 5 years because we traded him. Just please, God, stop. And this video is going long right now, so I'm going to go ahead and end it right there. I just had to rant and give my thoughts about the Pistons offseason, because everyone keeps asking me, or asking the question, why do you like Torrey Weaver's offseason? Why do you like the Pistons offseason? Everybody else hates it. So there's my reasons laid out. I think everybody's really just overreacting about everything because they didn't do what they wanted them to do, or didn't do it the typical way of just tanking and sucking. People, since they didn't do it the typical way, everyone's just freaking out and criticizing them, which they can do all they want. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if they're right. We have to wait and see with these young prospects. Once we see with them, then we'll know what to judge or not. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for checking out the video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below if you like my content. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up down below as well. And until my next video, I'll see you guys later. Hopefully I have these two Josh Jackson and Sekou Doumbouya videos out before the season opener. I'm going to try my best to get it there. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.